Hey, it's Devay Campbell from Career 2 Cents. I am going to go live on Instagram at the same time. So it's checking my connection. Alrighty, awesome. It's Devay Campbell from Career 2 Cents. I am live on Instagram as well as in the Facebook group, and I may even upload this video to YouTube because I am asked this question all the time. But for those of you who don't know me and who are new to my space, new to the group, I'm a career coach, certified human resources professional. I'm also the CEO and founder of Career 2 Cents. I just started my movement for career women of color called Beyond the Job Offer. So I have some awesome things going on. I am a college speaker. Well, not necessarily just college. I actually go to colleges, organizations, and nonprofits, but colleges and high schools seem to be my thing here lately. Just giving advice on careers, business, and a little bit of life too. So again, you heard me say that by trade, I am a certified HR professional. Hey, thanks so much for joining over here on Facebook. If you see me going back and forth, it's because I'm on IG as well. So as you know, I've been doing some Ask Devay questions, and this one comes up all the time. At one time, I thought I would be a coach just for HR individuals. It didn't happen that way, and that's fine with me, but it was just I attract human resources professionals, and that's cool. So someone asked me via email how to get into HR, and they did have some experience, but maybe it got into another industry for a little while, and I want to really address that. I do think that human resources is one of those fields that a lot of people want to get into, especially in certain areas. And maybe it's just me because I feel like people come to me wanting to get into HR. So I think it's one of those fields that a lot of people want to get into. So I'm actually working with someone right now to do just that in her area. I made that transition in 2008 was it 2000? Yes, about 2008, and I spent about 8 years in the field. I think that one of the biggest things that you have to do if you want to break into human resources is understand what human resources professionals do. And so with HR, there are so many different areas you can go into. So understanding what they do, but also realizing which area you want to go into, or do you want to be a generalist? So a generalist handle a little bit of everything. You can have someone in your office 1 minute and you're counseling them. The next minute you're looking for the next talent. The next minute you're planning for a training or some type of company event. And then there's benefits enrollment and you're doing that. So it's so many different areas like compensation, recruiting, HRIS, which is Human Resources Information Systems. You might not have a lot of people contact, but you will be heavy into the systems. You have benefits, employee relations. And so in a larger organization, they might split these off. You're only training, you're only recruiting, you're only employee relations, especially like in hospitals. But in some areas, you have to do all of it, and that's called a generalist. So understand if you want to be a specialist or a generalist, and then understand what they do. The reason I say understand that is because it's your responsibility when you're trying to break into a field to convince the individuals that are hiring for that you are the person for that. Thanks so much for the likes and the thumbs up over here on Facebook. So just making them see that you are the person for that role. So on your resume, you need to highlight certain things. And so to me, depending on where you want to be, I've been a specialist, and specialist I was totally recruiting, and I've been a generalist most of the time. So that's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I personally, if I were to give you advice, I would say, well, you've been in HR before, the person that submitted the question. But I would say, sometimes getting your feet wet in generalist land gives you an idea for what you don't want to do. And sometimes specialties are really hard to break into because they want to see that you've actually done this thing for a particular amount of time. So understanding what an HR person does, understanding what area you want to go into, and what skills and traits and experience you have that can kind of parlay into that area. So for me, I was a manager, and I really did think it was going to be super easy. I did. I thought that, well, I interview some people sometimes. I do train. I do performance reviews. But it wasn't. So my first job was about an hour and 20 minutes away from my home, which was fine because I was very clear that that's what I wanted to do. And sometimes you do have to take a little step back in order to move forward. And that's what I was doing. But really just sitting down as a manager in whatever field you're in, understanding how one relates to the other. So I would get some job descriptions and see things over and over again. Hey, Jennifer. Give me just 1 second. What about entry-level recruiting? What about entry-level recruiting? Okay. You got the degree but no experience. Okay, we got that. What would you recommend? So I'll get to that in just 1 second. Jennifer, thanks for your question. And thanks for joining on. And thanks, everybody. I see you coming into the room. Instagram, I see you kind of catch up, but that's fine. It'll be up for 24 hours. So understanding that will help you to really talk about your skills and qualifications. So what I did and what I advise my clients to do is get some job postings. And when you're looking at these job postings, you're going to highlight everything that you feel like you can bring to that table. So if they say that you must be able to secure confidential information, and maybe you've worked in a hospital before and you know all kinds of things happen in a hospital where you're dealing with medical records. You might not see that correlation, but in essence, you're maintaining and securing confidential information. So I will highlight that. Check, I got that. You know, it may not be in the environment that in the HR environment, but I can secure confidential information. Must be able to advocate for the employees, or must be able to keep the company from litigation, which is pretty much what HR is to me. You kind of make a good HR person can balance between advocating for the employee and also protecting the company. So I would take those things. If you've been a mediator, if you've counseled anyone, if you coached anyone, those things go very well with HR. I was a manager, so I did lead some people, but I had to also support them and help to develop them when I was doing performance reviews. So that was kind of simple for me. But for you, depending on which role you may be in now and your previous roles, you might have to be a little more, dig a little bit deeper to find those skills. But also the reason you want to pull multiple job offers, multiple job postings, is just to see what you see over and over again, because those reoccurring things are definitely must have. And so that brings me to this point. With human resources, there are 2 certifications that I would want you to consider. You can look them up. Depending on your education level, it will tell you how much experience you need, if any. So the PHR is one of them. And then that stands for Professional and Human Resources. And then the SHRM CP is the other one. It's SHRM-CP. And it stands for Certified Human Resources. And why did I forget that? And that's the one that I have. Certified Human Resources Management. Society of Human Resources Management Certified Professional. Geez, they're going to revoke my certification. I did have the PHR certification from 2011 to 2015. And that's Professional Human Resource. It was the first one that was out, the first one that was kind of available. And then the Society of Human Resources Management took over and, well, they split off rather, and they came up with their own. And I decided to pursue that one and get that one and keep that one. But both of them are equally recognized. When you're looking at job postings, you will see that. You will see certified, the HR SHRM one, and you'll see the Professional Human Resources one. Look and see which one is probably less stringent for you. So if one of them says you must have 1 year experience, or if you have a master's, you don't need any experience, hey, thanks for joining. That's the one that I would do. Hey, over here on Instagram, I see you joining too. Thanks, everyone. So for those of you who are just joining, I'm talking about how to get into HR. It was an Ask Devay question that was in my email, and I've decided to choose this one, although I'll be talking about several other ones throughout the week. This one is one that I get all the time. So that's why I selected this one. So looking at those certifications, when I got my certification, those certifications were preferred. It was almost a nice to have. And I started seeing a shift between being a nice to have and some positions were saying it would be required. So that's when I knew that I had to go ahead, bite that bullet and do that, because I saw the industry shifting and changing. And so for where we are right now at the taping of this video in 2018, I would say it is almost 90% you need to go ahead and get it, because a lot of positions are given that as, top priority. If you have a certified person and one that's not, they're going to pick the certified person. And that certification for me, not only did it make me more marketable, it also allowed my peers, people that were interviewing me, and everybody else around me to understand that this is not just a job for me. I'm taking this serious as a career, and I'm vested in this. So I would say look those up. The other things that I would do is definitely get on LinkedIn, connect with some individuals in HR, look at their background, look at how it relates to yours and not, but also get into those groups. When you get into groups here on Facebook, as well as here on LinkedIn, you can start learning, reading articles. You can even submit some yourself when you're comfortable with that. That draws attention to you, but also just being there, because the majority of people in those groups are not just professionals. There are people looking to hire someone in HR. So those would be my tips. I think, understanding where you want to go in HR, because it's so broad. And if you want to be broad and be a generalist, that's fine. But understanding that is important, as well as understanding what you bring to the table. And the only way you're going to know that is look and see what the market is requiring right now. Also, taking the time to research the certifications, because it's getting to the point where, a lot of people do have it, but there's a lot of people that don't. But that's going to separate you from somebody who's just wanting to be in HR and showing that you're actually serious. Think about things like times where you've counseled someone. You can also think about times where you have had to support someone in their decision making. Maybe if you've coached some leaders before, there's any kind of leadership training yourself personally or facilitated in leadership training. And I'm just taking for granted here on the generalist part. But if you definitely want to do anything else, like recruiting, compensation, those are a little bit different. So you need to understand what that is. So I know I didn't have like the direct area of HR, and just like any of these Ask Devay questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. But for me to really dig inside of your situation, look at your resume and see if it's one that is, leaning more towards HR, or that you need to really beef it up in some kind of way. Just looking at your overall career plan and giving you a strategy, that's something that you have to do one-on-one with me. And there are opportunities to do that one-on-one with me, either resume or coaching. I actually do both. So I would put some links somewhere around this video, but those are my best tips. Don't be afraid also to look outside of your immediate area. And I'm not saying drive an hour and 20 minutes like I did, but sometimes when you're in a more metropolitan area, I'm not sure where you live, it's really condensed. There are a lot of HR people and a lot of people trying to get into HR. And so those are just a couple of the tips that I have here for that. So I did have a question over here on IG. Well, I have it on Facebook. I'm just telling you over here on IG that I have a question. So Jennifer want to know, what about entry-level recruiting with a degree but without experience? What would you recommend? So my current customer has a master's and want to get into HR but don't have HR experience. And I would say follow the same steps. What I've done for her is I'm working on her resume right now. We won't begin the coaching part until after May 11th, but I look to see the other areas that she's been in and look at how that kind of relates to HR and highlight those skills. So you shouldn't take for granted that somebody's going to know that if you did XYZ job, that it's kind of the same. Like you have to really put it in their face. I've said this before, when I was even in HR, a lot of jobs I didn't understand the ins and out of, especially right away. I was looking for certain keywords, certain buzzwords. The computer will look for certain words for you, but you need to spell it out and don't leave anything up for, like, well, they should know that if I've done this, it is similar to that. So really highlight those skills, and which is what I've done for my client. For recruiting, entry-level recruiting, staffing is a good place to start, but I will say, most people, staffing tends to have, I'm just to be honest, staffing tends to have a lot of turnover, and I'm not sure what happens on the inside of staffing. I've relied on staffing agencies like crazy when I was in HR. Thanks so much for the emojis. I've relied so much on staffing, and they're good when you have a good staffing agency and they can keep a good talent pool and jump in and send you employees. I mean, they have all the things that you need for recruiting, but also just making sure recruiting on Jennifer is a salesy type of job. So if you've had any kind of sales, any kind of negotiating, then I would highlight those, because with recruiters are salespeople. So just as much as you want a job and you're like, oh my, I really need to get in there, I love this company, they're like on the other end saying that too. I love her. I hope she takes us. And when I was a recruiter, I made so many offers. I was pretty good closer, but I did have a few people. I was going to relocate someone from California. And it was like, I offered my best 6-figure salary, reload, everything. And it was a hard to fill position. I worked on it. And when he told me no, I was crushed. So, I always say that sometimes you can find out what a person really likes. And when you find out what they like, when you're recruiting them and you're building that relationship with them, you kind of highlight those things. If they're always talking about traveling, then of course you want to tout your time off. Or maybe if they have the ability to travel within the job, those are the things that you want to highlight, because you're selling them to Jennifer. So if you had sales and negotiation, even if it's not B2C, business to consumer, but it's maybe business to business type sales, business development, negotiating, any kind of relationship building, networking, highlight those skills for sure, because that's where the recruiter is. Any kind of matching, matching opportunities to people or to businesses. That's going to be great. I am not afraid of, I don't care what age you are. It's done a little bit differently on a resume, but definitely tout your education. Tout your education, and if you've taken different classes, tout those. There are real life experiences that you can have too that kind of go into that. So do both, everywhere. If you know that you kind of work with your employees at your church, then I would put that. If you're always the person who's networking and gathering people together and volunteering and in different areas, put that if it's relevant. And that goes for any type of role. When you're trying to make a career change, then you want to bring the whole story to the table. Don't be afraid to bring the entire story to the table. So that's HR or not. But that's really good. So Jennifer, not sure about your background, but definitely follow the same things. And anybody who's looking to transfer into any kind of position outside of your norm, what you've been doing, make sure that you understand what's required and exactly what you want to do. No more blanket, generic resumes. Make it very targeted. You're welcome, Jennifer. Make it very targeted. Make sure that that person who I used to say, I should know when I was a recruiter, I used to say, I should know which position you want when I look at your resume, even if you don't tell me. That's how much you should have that resume targeted. And if not, and definitely you can have the name of the position on the resume so that it does at least pass that little check mark when it's going through the applicant tracking system. But understanding where you want to go, understanding what skills are necessary, and then what skills you can bring from your education, your personal or professional life to meet those. Highlight them on the resume. Look for any certifications in the industry. So this is HR or not. And then I want you to definitely get on LinkedIn, connect with other people, but also look and see what they're saying on their profile. Look at their background. Where were they before they moved into the particular HR role that maybe is something that you will be interested in. And if you're going to specialize, then go ahead and specialize, but it's the same process. Like recruiting, understanding that recruiting is sales. And maybe you've never heard that before. Have you heard that before, Jennifer, that recruiting is sales? It's like sales. You have a closing, you have you have an offer, pretty much. You have closing, you negotiate back and forwards. You're building a relationship. When I was recruiting people, we were besties. I might be checking on you like we was best friends, because while I have you interested, what I understand is people want to hire people that they want to work with, but it's the same way. I want to be able to show that this company is friendly, employee friendly, and you like me too. Because if you don't like your recruiter, then they're the representative of the company for you, at least a big portion of it. And if they don't like you, then they're like, I don't want to work at that company. They're going to put you as the whole company. I'm not working with that company. I don't like her. And so I just want you to keep that in mind when you're looking. So it's not necessarily just recruiting. You can look at some other skills there. Is that great? Do I have any other questions? I do have some other Ask Devay questions, and I'm going to do one tomorrow. So I know it's a little bit late tonight, so I won't do 2 today, but I might do 2 tomorrow just to make sure that I answer your questions. If you have a question, definitely I'll put a link somewhere around this video, or you can email me at Devay Campbell at Career 2 Cents. I'll put that here too, just so we can get some dialogue going. I can answer your questions. It is definitely time to, I did ask about who was looking for a job. That was for a reason. I'll let you know that tomorrow. But it's definitely time to get your questions answered. Don't wait on the sidelines. Normally I do have free consultations. However, I don't have free coaching, but this is about as free coaching as you're going to get. So definitely, if you have something, I'm open. Ask me, and I'm going to give you your answer. So if there are any more questions tonight, I will take a quick question, especially if it's around HR or getting into a similar industry. If not, if your question is something separate, then either drop it below and I'll make sure you get an answer, or I will give you the email address and things tomorrow. So I'm not sure if my person who asked me that is listening or on tonight, but I will make sure that I reach out and let her know the video is up. As I said, I may put this on YouTube to take it down and maybe put it on YouTube, just because I always get asked this question. So I wanted to give other people an opportunity to see it. So I don't see any more questions, but I know that there's a little bit of a lag sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and end my Instagram, and then Facebook, I'll be coming at you next. All righty, IG. Talk to you soon. Okay, awesome. All righty. No more questions on here. I do see some people joining. So I'll just tell you again, I'm Devay Campbell with Career 2 Cents. I am a career coach and certified HR professional, speaker, 3-time best-selling author. I appreciate you being in the group, especially those of you, a few of you just joining. I certainly do appreciate you for, hopping in and trusting me with your career or business info. And this is going to end my Ask Devay. If you have questions, I'm going to be doing this. I think I'm going to do it all week. Why not? So get your questions together, because you never know when I'm going to stop it, but I'm saying all week. But I'll probably, depending on how many questions I get. So don't wait. Get your questions in, because it will depend on how interactive you guys are and what your questions are. I will certainly join in. But if nobody's asking, then maybe not. So I will talk to you soon, but I'm going to count it down because I know Facebook has a lag, just in case you have any questions. Okay? Alrighty. Gotta get some resumes done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good night.